Opera SM back with another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. Today we're gonna go deep into Durdle land. Um, I've been having a thought about this deck for quite a while, about Overflow and trying to get a lot of value out of Overflows. So this deck is combining two kind of different ideas with Nullhide Ferox, which if you exile a lot of cards from your hand, you make spells and supports cheaper, eventually free to cast. And getting stuff in play that lets you draw cards and then doing some weird stuff with Overflow. This ability is not on a lot of cards, and many of them are masterpieces or tougher cards to get outside of the ones that they give you from that free event. But this subset of cards is very interesting. When this card enters your hand, if you have 5 or more cards in your hand, it is exiled and a special effect happens. So if this card is in your hand and then exiled, it will actually make costs for Nullhide Ferox reduced, which is kind of cool. So in this deck we have Ferox, we have Once Upon a Time, which will fetch the first creature or land card from your library, and then if you overflow it, you fetch it and it gets 6 mana. This pairs really well with Leyline of Anticipation. We are running only one spell in this deck, as you can see, 3 creatures, 1 spell, 6 supports. So Leyline of Anticipation costs 10. We don't really care about its first ability that it gives something on the board flash, so theoretically it could matter. But when we overflow into it, fetch the first spell from your library. Then if it's your opponent's turn, that spell gains half mana. Well, the only spell we have in our deck, if we overflow into this with 5 or more cards, is Once Upon a Time. So this will chain together some overflow value of Leyline of Anticipation into Once Upon a Time into one of our creatures, since we don't have any lands in the deck. So of the creatures in the deck, we have Nullhide Ferox, which is an engine to start to get our spells and supports to be cast for free. We have Chancellor of the Forge, which is also some additional value. So this guy costs 21 for a 7/7 hasty creature. When you cast it, create X goblin tokens, where X is the number of creatures or creature reinforcements you control, but it has overflow of create 3 goblin tokens. So it's really cool when you can get the value chain of getting Leyline of Anticipation into Once Upon a Time into Chancellor of the Forge to create some creatures. And in this deck we also have Season of Growth. So if we have the Season of Growth out when we're creating those goblin tokens, then we're drawing cards as each of those tokens is created, which can then draw into more overflow cards, which can continue to trigger them. And then if they're exiled from your hand, then that creates space to draw into more cards and maybe do more overflow. So again, this deck is super dirtly with a lot of weird stuff going on. Not the most efficient, a lot of clicks and triggers, but it's kind of fun. So Once Upon a Time likes doing that a lot, to hopefully find some good value. The third creature is another value creature. Again, kind of going on with this chain of things, but if you Once Upon a Time into an Augur of Bolas, it will have all but 1 mana. Theoretically, it could gain that last mana off a partner. I'm still waiting for them to print us a 8 support slot Planeswalker that can have both blue and green in its color identity, because then you could set up some pretty sick loops with Augur of Bolas and Once Upon a Time, just getting Augur of Bolas as the only creature, and if you have Planeswalkers, it would get 6 + 1 mana is 7 to just keep infinitely casting and do some stupid loop stuff. Also in Legacy, you could have Summoner's Pact, which would it could be the spell that gains 1 mana that you fetch with Augur of Bolas to get more, and it would deal you 4 damage a turn, but then you would be able to keep infinitely casting stuff. Just weird, more dirtly stuff. But Augur of Bolus, sorry, you got some sirens going on in the background, just is another thing for value where you cast Augur of Bolus, it will go and fetch the Once Upon a Time, or if you have 5 or more cards in hand, that will trigger the overflow of Once Upon a Time, which will get you another creature. So, anyway, sorry, convoluted, weird, super dirtly stuff, as I mentioned. But so let's see, we talked about the creatures, we talked about the Once Upon a Time and Leyline of Anticipation change. The last overflow card I have, which I like a lot, is Serum Powder. This masterpiece for 8. Oftentimes we won't even play this, but if you do, you can activate 3 to convert gems to loyalty gems, which is fine. But the overflow ability of discard all cards without mana in your hand, then draw that many cards. Those cards gain half their mana. So this will allow us to get rid of some of the other cards that we have in hand and draw into half mana cards, which will help us cast the pieces that we need. And it can also, if we have 6 cards in hand, let us get one more card that could, have an overflow value that we can use. So it's interesting with this. And then the remaining cards in this deck, I talked about Seasons of Growth as well. Just I'm not 100% positive about this, but it has been working pretty well because we need to get creatures into play to win. And when we play the creatures, it will draw us into more cards, which can trigger more overflow. So that's has been the best thing I've found for the last slot yet. But our other 3 cards in here are Planeswalkers. This is kind of barning off of Madron from Goblin Pile's idea. He had a really cool Ferox deck that used Planeswalkers to draw into more cards so he could exile them to Ferox. So I'm using the same idea here. He used it to do some cool stuff with Halls of Heliod's Generosity and QR Best the Sea God, other enchantment stuff like that, so they could keep recurring that every turn. So his is definitely a more competitive, faster deck to play. This is using that the abilities of the Planeswalkers, which can draw you cards to just get some additional chances to draw and deck cards of 5 or 6 hands, 5 or 6 cards per turn, so we can get more overflow value. Again, the purpose of this deck is not to win fast or to win the most. It's to have fun and trigger overflow gluttonous amount of times. I'm still trying to think of good names for the deck, but Gluttonous Ferox Trigger Overflow, GTFO, is the best I got right now. Looking for names for improvement for that. But Nicol Bolas is one of those Planeswalkers. Costs 16. He has his ability when your opponent activates a loyalty ability or vanguard ability, gain 8 loyalty, which is pretty cool if you're trying to ramp up. But its second ability of draw a card and your opponent exiles the last card from their hand is awesome, because not only does it draw us a card, but the exiling the last card from their hand triggers Ferox's ability about whenever a player exiles a card from their hand, it reduces the cost of spells and supports. So it's kind of a 2-for-1, which is great. And while we mainly use the +1 ability, you eventually have to win, as much fun as it is to durdle. So with 3 legendary cards in the deck, you can actually just use the -7 ability to 24 damage your opponent. So keep that in mind if you get sick of durdling. I don't know how anyone could ever get sick of durdling personally, but that's what you can do. Will Kenrith, which is just awesome. Its +1 ability of draw 2 cards and those cards gain 2 mana is perfect for this sort of idea. We can get down to 4 cards in hand and then use Will Kenrith to draw back up to cards 5 and 6 to trigger more overflow stuff. Its ultimate I've never used in this deck. Copy each non-copy spell in your hand. Those cards gain half their mana, but you could do that, I guess, technically to get copies of your Once Upon a Times, I guess. Actually, if you had multiple Once Upon a Times in hand, that could be kind of fun to get 2 into play if you're going for the ultimate durdle value. But its -2 ability, target creature's power and toughness becomes 0-3 until beginning of your next turn. That creature loses its Evergreen's ability till the beginning of your next turn. Could definitely be used as your durdling if your opponent gets an aggro start, especially if they've got a defensive sort of creature that gets big, in order to just slow it down for a little bit if you want to. Royal Scions cost 12. Its first ability, the resourceful one, whenever you draw a card, if it's not the first card you drew this turn, works really well with our plan of trying to get extra cards drawn with this deck. Well, quite a few cards do that. It just gives us some pretty good incidental incremental value, as we'll deal damage to our opponent's planeswalker and then drain mana from their hands, so they're less likely to be able to cast stuff, which is nice. But it's mainly there for the that is significant value, though, as you're just durdling around to actually do something towards killing your opponent. But the 0 ability of discard a card, then draw 2 cards is great, because again, can allow us, if we have 5 cards in hand, to activate the ability to discard down to 4, then draw cards 5 and 6 to potentially trigger Overflow twice again. And its -3 ability is definitely pretty potent. Target creature you control gets +0/+3 and gains double strike till end of turn. So our Ferox stacks can get pretty big. Our Goblin stacks can get pretty big. So again, just to win, you can use this ability to just start swinging, especially with if you have a Ferox reinforced a couple times, it can actually end the game pretty quickly. I think that covers most of how the interactions in the deck work. What you have to do, there's a lot of weird sequencing in this deck. We are using Sarkhan Unbroken in this. As you noticed, it is in a rug color combination. But Sarkhan is great. You can use his first ability if you want to draw an extra card. That would increase your mana bonuses. That can trigger Overflow, which is nice, and it can just help you ramp to get what you need. You can make a dragon if you need it, and then pump up your guys, but I haven't used that ability. But I do use the ultimate ability quite a bit, because then you can either find Ferox's or Chancellor of the Forges, which is great. With Chancellor of the Forge, when you would go and get it, if you have 6 or more cards in hand, you probably want to click Not Now on the Overflow trigger for that, because you'd rather have it get mana into your hand, cast it, and then get a whole bunch more goblins into play. So just keep that in mind when you're sequencing. Also, you do exile from your hand a lot with this deck. You generally want to try to keep your hand at 4 cards or so at end of turn, so that way when you're drawing for the turn, you can draw up to 5 or 6 cards, so that way you can start triggering more and Overflow. Again, we're going full gluttony, durdle, Overflow value in this. So if you want to have the maximum amount of fun durdling with Overflow, try to do that. But then once you get up to 5 or 6 cards, you can exile cards in your hand to make things cost less for Feral or Nullhide Ferox, and then use all 3 of your Planeswalker's abilities to get even more chances for Overflow every turn. Again, it's not a fast deck, lots of clicks, lots of weird sequencing and decisions, but it does allow you to do some stupid Overflow chains of stuff. Also, in order to keep those 3, 4 cards in your hand at end of turn, sometimes the best play is actually to just freeze some of the cards which would be free to cast, so you can stay at that 4 card limit at end of turn or something if you want to. Notice that if you do have Seasons of Growth in play, you don't always necessarily have to do that, because for instance, you get a Chancellor of the Forge going, you get to draw 3 cards off of it. Nullhide Ferox comes in, Augur of Bolas comes in, you get more value off of those guys as well. So a lot of weird sequencing and thinking about stuff. But yeah, I think that's the general plan of the deck. I need to update the Overflowing Value is not the worst name either, but I like the GTFO thing if I can figure out a way to make that work. But let's go ahead and play a sample game, just seeing all the weirdness of what this deck does. Again, it's going activating full-on durdle mode. But if you have ideas how you think you might want to adjust or fix this deck, let me know. Another idea that I've been playing around with, which hopefully I'll fine tune a little bit later, has been using a Garrick 2 shell with Gather the Pack and Relentless Pursuit Ferox, and then Mausoleum Secrets, which is awesome because Mausoleum Secrets has undergrowth. So if you have 7 or more creatures in your graveyard, you can just keep casting Mausoleum Secrets over and over and over again. So that's been pretty fun with Treasury Thrall. It's even more dirtily in the fact that you have to loop and keep getting Mausoleum Secrets back, and then drain your opponent for 2 every turn while making 2 1/1 flyers with Treasury Thrall. But that's a different deck, but we'll get there eventually. Alright, so we're going to get Wilkenrith out first because we want to get our hand size as big as possible soon. So let's see what we can do here to find a match like that. We can get a red into a green, which is nice, and then even have the possibility to get a blue match 5 after that, which is pretty cool. Let's see if there's anything better that we can find. I don't think there is going to be. We can get a black into a red. I don't think that's going to drop too much more after the black into the red, though it could give us a chance to get a green. But I think we're going to do the green into the red into the green for now. Alright. Cool. Serum powder we don't necessarily need. Again, I think I just want to keep stuff in my hand, most likely. A Seasons of Growth is probably going to be the next thing we'll want to drop on the board, so I'll put that here. But let's see. We can get a green match, we can get a blue match, we can get a green or blue match 4, which is not bad. We can get a red match. Trying to think what would be best here. Probably just the blue match 4 for mana value right now. Our opponent wants black and red as well, so maybe it's actually better to just take the red from them, so we'll do that for now. Not sure if that's right or not, but... Alright, good. There's a Ferox. That's really important to start getting our stuff online. Now we're going to start going with some value here. So let's see if we can hit some overflow cards and see what happens. So we're going to activate the +1. Augur of Bolus. That's great to get a spell. Chancellor of the Forge. This is our first value play. Alright, so we're going to get 3 goblins for free, which is nice. Get on that value train. And then our Augur of Bolus also allowed us to get another spell. So let's start to see this in action here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards in my hand. Ferox into play first might be the best thing to do, but we could get some more value this turn off of an Augur of Bolus, and we could get into another Augur of Bolus, another Forge, Chancellor of the Forge, or a Nullhide Ferox with partial mana. So I think I may actually just go for that value play right now. Might not be the smartest thing, but that's what we're going to do because we like value. Or we could just luck sack and get everything. 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 This is what I love about this deck, just stupid dirtliness. Okay, so we drew into Once Upon a Time. It's triggering overflow, so we can fetch the first creature or land card from our library, and then it gains 6 mana. So let's go ahead and do that. We got another Augur of Bolus. Augur of Bolus is in here with Bolus too. That's a nice theme. All right, great. So now we have Nicobolus Dragon Dude. So let's start to look at what we want to do in this deck. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards currently in our hand. We want to get this Nicobolus Dragon God into play. So what we're going to do, we're going to exile Serum Powder right now. We'll see that the cost of our spells and supports went up, which is great. We'll see that our Seasons of Growth is free to play. So if we end up playing this first this turn, we could do an Augur of Bolus and then get to draw cards. So we may end up doing that, may not, but now we're going to do Will Kenrith's first ability to draw 2 cards, cards 5 and 6 in hand, see if we can get some overflow cards for value. Another Will Kenrith, and a Royal Scions. Royal Scions is not bad because we want to get all these Planeswalkers on board. So let's see. So Nicol Bolas God Dragon, we don't need another Will Kenrith, so we're going to go ahead and exile that. So if we can exile one more card, we can get both our Planeswalkers into play for free, which is pretty sweet. So I think we're going to exile this Chancellor here. And we've used our loyalty ability, so I think what we're going to do is dip down a little bit in cards this turn for a setup, but with this setup we are going to then be set for the next turns to just start getting a ton of value and potential overflow every single turn, just off of activating all our Planeswalkers' abilities. So I think we do want the Seasons of Growth in play so we can start to get value whenever we draw whenever we have a creature come into play. So let's see here, we can get a green or a red into 4 white, which is pretty good. I think that's probably what we do, and then we have a chance to get loyalty and black after that. So I think that's probably the value play. It also takes a red away from our opponent. All right. Okay, he's got big old dragon in. What does that do? This is the guy that when you cast a non-token dragon, they get a 6/6 red dragon, and then whenever you exile a card from your hand, if that card has 10 or more mana, create a red dragon. That's good to think about potential theoretical interactions between Ferox and this guy. Yeah, that could be an interesting Karn deck where you could play... Oh, you could play something like Ferox, Kalia the Vast, or Kalia whatever, that one's the one that can fetch dragons, angels, and demons, and you could get this guy, and then you could exile extra copies of this from your hand because it would have 11 mana off of 11 or 12 mana, I don't remember if it rounds up or down, off of Kalia to get red dragons. That could be kind of fun. Anyway, wouldn't really have a spot to put him if you had Ferox in play, but all right, so let's see. We need some value. How are we going to get the best value here? So we have all our Planeswalkers in play. So I think what I'm going to do, and let's look at the order at how we want to sequence these. And usually the one that I want to end with is Bolas Dragon God, because that way when you draw a card and then you exile the last card, then it will reduce the cost of everything by 10. So that's usually what I want to do last, because then it's a cost reduction for everything else that we've cycled through this turn. So I think what I'm going to do is just use this first ability to draw a card and increase mana bonuses. We got a Chancellor of the Forge, and again, this is Royal Scion's ability of Resourceful that's pinging our opponent, and we should get a full, now that we've got this complement of Planeswalkers out, which draws 2 plus discard 1 and draw 2 plus draw and exile, should draw us 5 a turn. So we're going to trigger this Resourceful 4 every turn, dealing our opponent 4 damage and draining 4 mana from them, which is awesome. So now we've got 4 cards in hand, so we're going to start activating these abilities. So I think the order I want to do is Will Kenrith first to draw up to cards 5 and 6. Then I could, after that, if I don't exile stuff, then I could go down to 5 cards, use Royal Scion's ability to discard down to 4, then draw back up to 5 and 6 again, then discard 1 card if I have 6 in hand, to go down to 5 and use nickel boluses to draw a card, go up to 6, potentially trigger overflow again, and then make our opponent exile a card to lose it from their hand, and then make our stuff cheaper. Again, this is a total durdle fest, but I like to durdle. So let's see, let's do that in the order that we talked about. What did our opponent play? This giant Drago dude. All right, so if you haven't left the video by now, we're gonna have more fun turtling. That's probably about 2% of the people. They're like, stop rambling, buddy. All right, but we're gonna durdle hard. All right, draw 2 cards, because we have, yes, we've got 4 in hand. So let's go ahead and do this. Draw 2 cards, and they'll gain 2 mana. Augur of Bolus is 1. Chancellor of the Forge, yes, more value. Perfect. 3 goblins, and then we end up drawing cards off of our Season's Growth. And again, with these Planeswalkers, I'm wondering if Season's Growth is the best, because then it will fill your hand up with other things, but I still think I like it. So let's see. Now what we're gonna do is let's go ahead and exile 1 card to get down to 5. I think we want our Augur of Boluses to be played. So I think we'll keep Nullhide Ferox in hand to eventually cast and make bigger. And then now we're going to exile or discard our Chancellor in order to draw 2 cards off of Royal Scions. Get a Royal Scions, get a Nullhide Ferox. Okay, no huge value there. We're going to discard a Ferox here. Now we could get a free Bolus, but we'll probably just keep them in our hand. Now we're going to go ahead and activate Bolus ability to have another chance to get overflow. Will Kenris, so we're not hitting those, but that's okay. So yeah, our things cost a lot less now, which is pretty cool. Getting another Royal Scions wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing, so we can eventually activate the -3 ability to give our guys +1/+1 again if we want to activate it once and then still have the ability to do our Super Rummage Plus effect. So let's see. So Once Upon a Time is going to draw us into a card, get us up to 5, and then Augur of Bolus will get us up to 5 as well. So I think we're okay with that. And then if we go down to 4 with Royal Scions, I think that is okay too. So let's see if we can find something that can give us 7 mana right now. We likely will not. We have something that can give us 6 though, which is not the worst. So let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead. Actually, oh, so red mana actually would give us up to 7 if we can find something with red, but I don't think we will. Our white and black only give us 2 each turn, so getting the 3 white and 3 black is not the best value here. So yeah, let's just go ahead and take the blue match for now. And then we'll look at the value we're going to get Once Upon a Time will get us into a creature with some land, and then the Augur of Bolus will get us into another Once Upon a Time, which will trigger overflow for the 2nd time. So let's see here. Ooh, this is nice. So we got our Serum Powder here, which is pretty cool. So we're going to use Serum Powder to discard all our cards without mana and then draw into more cards, see if we can get some more overflow value here. Leyline, Will Kenrith, Once Upon a Time, another Serum Powder. So Serum Powder we don't necessarily want right now. And this did end up casting a bunch of stuff, which is a little unfortunate, but was hoping for more value than that, but that is good to know about the possibility of that happening. So let's see, Once Upon a Time. So now we have to get our value train back up. It's possible maybe I should have frozen some, well, even if I froze, I discarded and then drew more cards, so that's fine. Part of the perils of just looking for a bunch of value. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and do Will Kenrith first to draw 2 cards. Royal Scions. Leyline of Anticipation, great. So this is the chain that I like the most. Leyline of Anticipation Overflow will fetch the first spell from our library with Overflow. Then that gets Once Upon a Time, which has Overflow. We still have 5 slots left in our hand, so this will trigger. And now we get a Augur of Bolas, which is awesome. So Augur of Bolas is going to then let us cast for something else later. I just love this value. All right. Maybe we want another Nullhide Ferox in play eventually, which would be pretty good. So now I think what we're going to do is activate Royal Scion's ability to discard one of the cards, get number 4 and 5, another Leyline of Anticipation. Yes, these are the value turns that I love of the silly durdliness of this deck. Overflow, Leyline of Anticipation into Overflown, Once Upon a Time, into another Augur of Bolas. I love it. All right. Now we want to, let's see, we've done this ability and we've done this ability. So now we want to exile 1 card from our hand. We still have decent amounts of shield on that Season of Growth, so we'll just exile 1 card from hand. Go ahead and use Nicol Bolas's ability to draw a card and then exile the last card from the opponent's. Another Royal Scions, that's fine. So let's see, we're going to get another creature. So we're going to get 3 more chances at Overflow just off of our draws. That is pretty freaking awesome. So I think what I'm going to do actually too is just get rid of 1 more card from my hand. That way we're going to always be up to 5, and then our turn we can draw card number 6 to get another chance at Overflow during our kind of beginning of turn draw step. I don't know how this game delineates things in terms of phases and steps like regular paper Magic comparatively, but let's see. So now we just want to get a match that will give us a decent amount of mana. If we can just get 2 off of like a black or a white match, that's pretty cool. Let's see, Serum Powder we could just convert to some loyalty, which is not the worst, so we could get a black into white here, which I think is what we want to do. We'll just do that for now to not take forever. Oh, that was a really cool match. Really cool match 7 that ended up dropping. Don't see that too much. All right, Once Upon a Time value, we'll take it. Into a Chancellor with the Forge value. I love this. And now we're going to draw into other stuff because of our season. Planeswalker we don't need. Into a Serum Powder. Now we can discard some stuff to maybe draw into more Overflow stuff. I love this. Leyline into a Bolas. Okay. All right, 1 extra swap now. So let's see. What do I want to do with this extra swap? Well, why don't we just get some value? Let's draw another card, see if we can get, we didn't get another Anticipate, whatever. I just love the silliness of this thing. So let's see. So we probably want another Ferox into play so we can try to just beat face on our opponent. So let's see, in terms of mana, nothing huge here that we can get, but if we do this loyalty match 4, we have a chance for a black, a blue, and a red. So we'll just go ahead and take that. Sure. All right, so even with all this durdling, we're putting a pretty fast clock on our opponent, which is nice. So, ooh, he's making dragon tokens. And the one glaring omission from this deck is no removal. So if people have good cards that would fit in the theme and exile stuff, or have good value with Overflow stuff, let me know. I would gladly love to take a look and see what we can do to get even more value from stuff. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do here, exile 1 card. Maybe it should have been one of those dragons in case I wanted another Royal Scions. But And something else to know is that with Seasons of Growth, if you know you're going to draw into some other stuff, sometimes being able to cast like a Planeswalker and then knowing you're going to go back up to 5 cards or something can be some value that you can do sometimes as well. But let's go ahead and we'll activate a little different order this turn. We're going to go ahead and do the discard, then draw here, Serum Powder. I'm not sure if we actually want to Serum Powder here. We'll do it. Why not? Overflow, no value in the overflow there. Ooh, that's interesting. We discarded our first card. Is that what that card does? Discard a card. Huh. Well, I don't quite understand the order. I thought it usually discarded our last card. I would have liked to have kept that other card in hand, but we'll play around with whatever weird interactions are going on here. So, alright. We'll go ahead and exile this Serum Powder here. Get to 4 cards in hand. Activate Will Kenrith's ability to draw 2 cards. Seasons of Growth. Leyline of Anticipation. Into a Once Upon a Time. Into what? Into Chancellor of the Forge triple overflow chain combo. I love it. That just makes me so silly. Just the silly value that one can get off of that just makes me so incredibly happy. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get rid of this Seasons of Growth. Go ahead and activate Nicol Bolas's ability, maybe get another overflow. Nope, just another dragon, that's fine. And then, let's see. So we want to cast... Well, let's see, we got +7 to red and +5 to blue, so that's pretty cool. So if we can get a red match, which we do have up at the top, we could actually cast this other Ferox, which is pretty cool. So we cast the Ferox, that's going to get us up to 5 cards, which will draw us a card. Down to 5, but then we get to draw again, and then let's just cast a Scion for a little value here, and then maybe next turn we can just, since it'll have enough shields, activate a Scion on a Nullhide Ferox to make it a 27 power double strike creature and just win next turn. As much fun as it is to durdle, this video's dragged on long enough if anyone is still watching, but alright, let's see. There we go. Yes, Chancellor of the Forge. More goblins. And I didn't do it in this video, but instead of activating Brokhan's first ability, one can definitely just go for the ultimate and then try to get some Chancellor of the Forges to actually cast and then make a giant goblin stack that way too. Alright. One final turn of value for the heck of it. So go ahead and exile a card. We're going to save Scions for its final ability. So we'll just go ahead and use it now. So just go out with a bang for the hell of it. Yeah. So yeah, giant thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get rid of that Season's Growth. Activate Will again for some more silly value. Will I? No, I will not find another overflow card. Got one more chance though. So let's do it. Another Ferox. Alright. So let's see. Doesn't really matter what we do here. We'll just get some loyalty and some green and then beat the crap out of our opponent here. Alright. Hope you enjoyed this super silly durdleness. And yeah, let me know if you have good ideas for better wording for the whole GTFO thing I was talking about. And If you like silly durdleness and overflow and Ferox doing stuff for free, hopefully you found this amusing. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.